Good morning, students. Welcome to Spanish 2-3, Unit 30. This is session 15, week 16, and I am Mrs. Daniel. I'm subbing for Mrs. Alvarado, who's on maternity leave, with a beautiful baby boy. The recording last week was not successful in that there were errors and the recording was not complete. There were times when the video advanced and regressed, and we played with it a long time and really couldn't troubleshoot it. So I'm hoping that this time our class records successfully. I apologize for those errors, and we're making an effort to be right on top of it today. So thank you for your patience. We're going to begin Unit 30. And let's take a look at our calendar for week 16 coming up. Spanish 2 class has the following schedule. We're going to be wrapping things up and focusing today on the use of two very common words in Spanish, por and para. Please take advantage of all the speaking and listening opportunities you have throughout your lessons, as they'll help you with your language learning and encourage you in your confidence when beginning to speak with strangers, people that you aren't as familiar with. Don't forget to submit your essential question at the end of the week. It's always due on Friday for a full 10 points. Spanish 3 calendar looks like this. Highlighting the same items. Are there any questions online? And we'll go ahead. All right, our objectives for this lesson are to cover the vocabulary or expressions using por and para, and then to discuss the grammar for those same two words. Your essential question is as follows. How do we know when to use por or when to use para in Espanol? In Spanish. Two words that are sometimes confused by second language learners. Before we begin, let's review the vocabulary for last week. We covered shopping and the use of words and money, methods of paying we might use when shopping. Take a look at the vocabulary that you see on your screen and see which of the following answers would apply to these questions at the bottom. It's kind of like a clue game. So I'd like those online and those in the classroom both to submit their answers. So you, on a piece of paper, write down what you think the answer to number 1 is. Those of you at home, go ahead and type your responses in. Number 1, which of the above terms would refer to this description? Es de plástico y se usa para comprar cosas. Chelsea. And Daniel both. Number 2, what would your 2 response? Very good, Daniel. I see that. Awesome. Number 2. Es hecho de metal y se usa para pagar. Es hecho de metal. That's your big clue. Y se usa para pagar. Pagar. Very good. Excellent. La moneda. You have it. Number 3. Which would you say is described by this phrase? Escribes la cantidad que tienes que pagar y se lo das al cajero, which is the form that you use cuando quieres escribir la cantidad que tienes que pagar y se lo das al cajero. Muy bien, el cheque, excelente. Número 4. Cada uno tiene una fotografía de un presidente y es hecho de papel muy especial. Number 4. Ah, perfecto. El billete con el 1, el 5, muy bien, el 20. Ok, let's do 5. En vez de pagar con tarjeta, se paga en, ¿cómo se dice? Se paga en, which term? Muy bien. Se paga en efectivo. Muy bien. That means you're going to pay by cash. I'll only take cash. Nada más quiero que pagues en efectivo. Very good. All right, let's begin our lesson for this next week then, our new material. First, we're going to discuss the Spanish idioms that use por and para. What's an idiom? We have idioms in Spanish and in English. Idioms are expressions that we use where some or all of the words within the expression are not taken literally. Let me think of an English expression. I should have thought of this ahead of time. Can any of you online think of an English expression? A group of words that we say together to have a meaning that, where some of the words might not be literal. Or we say a certain combination of words like, oh, the only thing that's coming to my mind right now is hats off, after you, someone you prefer to let someone go ahead of you, or you're trying to be polite, you say after you. Let's take a look at one of the English and the Spanish idioms that use the words por or para. As we review these, I'm going to pronounce them, and you can see the English translation of the expression there. But as I pronounce them, I want you to repeat them out loud wherever you are, so that you can get your tongue wrapped around the language, listen to the sounds of the language, and begin to practice it. Notice when you say an expression, you tie the words together. Just like in English, you tie the words together when you're using an expression. And you'll see some of the expressions in English as we go. So for the first one, it's para siempre. Para siempre means forever. Para que sepas. Para que sepas. Just so you know. No estar para bromas. No estar para bromas. That means I'm in no mood for jokes, or to be in no mood for jokes. Actually, no estar. No estoy para bromas would mean I'm not in the mood for jokes. No ser para tanto. No ser para tanto. It's not so important. Para colmo. Para colmo. To top it all off. You see what I mean by using expressions? And notice all of them have the P. The para, 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 para. The expressions using para. Now what's confusing is sometimes, as a second language learner, you won't remember if you're supposed to use por or you're supposed to use para, because often we translate both por and para as the word for in English. You'll notice that there are many more expressions using por than there are using para. And here are some of them. So we'll repeat. Por aquí, around here. Por allí, around there. Por mi parte. Por mi parte. Sometimes you would emphasize the me because you're saying my. As for me, por lo menos, that means at least. Por casualidad, by chance. Por medio de, by means of. Por cierto, by the way. Por completo, completely. Could also use completamente, but this expression, por completo, is also used. Por lo tanto, consequently, or as a result of, this is common also. Por todas partes. Por todas partes means everywhere. Por fin, finally. Por ejemplo, for example. You see that you can see the connecting words between the English and Spanish on many occasions, like ejemplo is example. But this combination of words in this particular order is very common as an expression. Here's another set of words using por. Por eso, that's why. Por primera vez, for the first time. Por suerte, fortunately. Por lo general, generally. Por supuesto, por todos lados, por otra parte, on the other hand. Por ciento is percent. We use it, the one word percent. Por favor, you recognize that. For favor, literally, but it means please. Por separado, separately. Palabra por palabra. He said it word for word. Again, por and para often can be translated in English into the word for. And for that reason, a lot of times we forget if we should use the word por or the word para in our expressions. That's why these expressions, idioms, are given to memorize so that you'll be accustomed and they'll become accustomed to them, and then they'll sound correct when you use them correctly. So your answer, Daniel, is yes. Okay, now let's give it a try. You give it a try. Let's try some matching. Thank you. Let's try some matching. What do you think? Which one is no estar para bromas? No estar para bromas. Bromas is jokes or riddles. So these would be the matching ones there. Para que sepas. If you recognize the word saber, then that's the word to know. Para que sepas is just so you know. Very good. Very good. Para siempre is forever. No ser para tonto. Very good. Who put that there? No ser para tonto. That's correct. You did it. Okay, how about para serte sincero? Think about sincero. Very good. Sincere. To be honest. Awesome. Thanks for your help. Let's move on to the next screen. All right. Let's try some matchers here. Por allí. Allí is over there. Por aquí. That would be here. Very good. Por medio de. Por medio de. What do you think on that one? By means of. Down here. Very good. Por lo menos. This is a common. At least I use it commonly. Por, very good. At least means at least. How about over here? Por suerte. Por suerte. Suerte is luck. Does that give you a clue? Okay, good. Por casualidad, by chance. Very good, I see that. How about por lo general? You can see that word general. General, very good, you got that. And the last one, por mi parte, as for me. Very good, awesome. And let's move on. One more, I believe this is the last set. Give it a try. Por fin. Fin. You see the little root of fin in the, very good, in the ending finally. Yes. Por ahora. Por ahora. Very good. Someone has that. Now, for now. Oh, gosh. Whoa. Oh, I see what happened to myself. My stroke. Oh, I could. Who is messing with my stroke? I'm going to have to get it back. Okay. Por ejemplo, just so it's not so. You guys. For example, here we go. Now it's working. Por todas partes, everywhere. Awesome. Por eso, that is why, for that reason, over here. Good. Por primera vez, for the first time. Por completo, completely, did you see that word? Completar, complete. And por lo tanto. Por lo tanto. Consequently. Or for that. I think of it as for that reason. Oh, we do have one more page for you. These also very commonly. See what you can do with these. Por otro parte, on the other hand, oops. Por supuesto is of course. Palabra por palabra, word by word. por todos lados, on all sides. Por separado is separately. And por ciento is percent. Oh, that was fun. Let's move on. All right, now let's talk about that por and para thing. In order to get a pattern in our mind, just so you know, por and para have many uses and many meanings. The only translation, the most common translation we think of in English is the word for. However, it really has a variety of meanings or shades of meaning. And for that reason, it's confused. Knowing when to use the prepositions por and para is sometimes a difficult thing for English speakers. But let's take a look at some of the grammar involved. Okay, the general rules, and this would be a good way for you to remember. Por is generally used to express motive or cause. If you're trying to give a reason, then you think por. Para is generally used to express purpose or destination. Now look at some examples and it'll make a little more sense to you, but these would be the rules to try to memorize and get stuck in your head. Okay. You will be practicing this on your lesson this next week. But here are some expressions using por or para where you can get a sense of the meaning of the word. Por is used to mean by in an expression like this. Fue hecho por Carlos. You would use por. It was made by Carlos. When you want to say, indicate a rate, you would say 10%, 10 for 100 literally, or in our translation would be 10%. The idea is the 10 is the part of or divided into the 100. Okay. Por is also used as a means of exchange. When you say pago 10 pesos por el pan, I am paying 10 pesos for the bread. Okay. It can be better translated into English around. In this translation, el parque está por aquí. The park is around here somewhere, is what the translation would be on that. Está por aquí, around here. It can mean along in this expression. Vamos por la plaza. Okay, let's get there by means of going through the plaza. Okay, so you're walking to town and you say, do you want to go this way or do you want to go that way? Should we take this street or that street? And you might reply, vamos por la plaza. Let's go through the plaza. It can indicate an approximate time and be translated approximately in or during in this expression. Me levanto por la mañana. Me levanto por la mañana. I get up in the morning. It can indicate cause in this expression. Por ser viejo, él es sabio. Because he is old, he is wise. Por ser viejo, okay, because of, better translation into English. You also, use por when you want to say for the sake of, as in this expression. Hazlo por tu madre. Do it for your mother, for the sake of, or in order to please her. Do you see how these are expressions rather than just literal translations word for word? Here's another one. Voy a la tienda por mi hermana. I'm going to the store for my sister, or, you know, as by her request. Because she asked me, because she can't go, is the idea. Okay, por is also used in math, meaning multiplication or times. Dos por tres son seis. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, and can also mean by way of, or how does someone get there? Viajen por tren. They travel by train. So you see these, this very common word, you'll use it often, for or para, but in more cases you'll use por than para, but it depending on the meaning again. That's the idea here. Okay, here are a few common uses for para. As we said before, when you're talking about destination, going towards something. Here's an example. Vamos para la iglesia. Okay, we are going towards the church. Or we're going to church, you might say. Okay, when something is going to be given to someone, when someone as a recipient is being indicated, that sense of the use for would be the word para. La torta es para ti. The cake is for you. Okay, when it's a gift. Okay, also when it's a case of employment. Martín trabaja para Quick Mart. Right? Martin works for Quick Mart. And the last one, when it's used as a comparison. Para ser hombre es muy sensitivo. Considering that he's a man, he's very sensitive. That sense of the use for, or considering that, is para. So you see, para and por, we would use perhaps one and the same word or a variety of words, but in Spanish a distinction is made depending on the use of the word. Are there any questions on the chat or in person? I believe as you go through the lesson this week and get some real practice with it, especially practice hearing it, you'll get a sense of which word is most appropriately used or more commonly used in any given situation. This lesson comes later on in your language learning because you really grow in this area when you're speaking. The more you speak and the more you hear, the more correct, the more you get a sense of what sounds correct and what sounds like it's not quite right. If English is your first language, you'll notice that a second language English speaker sometimes says things that you understand, but they're just said a little awkwardly. And that's because they're developing in their language learning, and idioms or expressions in a language are a little more difficult than just literal translation word for word. That's true in any language, so that the expressions or the non-literal translations of the language are more difficult. I'm going to just show you, I'll put this on chat too. There are some useful tools for language learning, especially as you get a little more advanced. This one, called Guide to Spanish Idioms, is very useful when you're learning beyond the literal beginning vocabulary and grammar. I recommend that book, especially if you're wanting to translate things. I know often you use online translators, but this is an area where an online translator might mess up because they try to interpret what you mean to say, but oftentimes, since they're only a machine, they can't get the gist of what you're trying to say, and so they'll choose a more literal translation. And it won't sound normal. It will sound awkward. So there really is no substitute for practicing the language orally. But this tool would be useful to you, especially if you continue in your language learning. Okay, so don't forget to practice your listening and speaking this week. In a moment when I sign off, I'm going to be giving us a chance by having us watch a little YouTube video again, and we're going to be singing along. I encourage you to do that at home, especially if you're, just let the video run through a few times and listen, get the sound of the language, and learn some expressions in some of these songs. I choose these songs because you've doubtless heard them before, and they may even have imprinted themselves in your mind because you've heard them. And songs tend to stick in your head easier than just other memory devices that you might use. So just enjoy a little background music here and some of these songs translated into Spanish. It might be interesting to you to see, since they do have subtitles, what the words would be in Spanish as well as hearing them in English. Okay, don't forget to respond to Essential Question 16 in Middlebury. I don't believe that's the correct due date though, 5/8. I think it's 5/1. I'm sorry about that. Your essential question is due this Friday. And those of you that are here live get an automatic 10 points credit. So come next week. This is Mrs. Daniel for Miss Alvarado signing off. Have a great day and do well.